Hello, career thought leaders. Good to see you here today. And we are going to be talking about the sourcing shift. So, how has sourcing changed? What are recruiters doing different? And some that they've been doing for a little while, but now they've amped that up. What does that mean for us? And what does it mean for a job seeker? So, we're going to go through three ways that sourcing is changed or is happening right now, and what that means for our clients. So go ahead and drop a note in the chat, say hello, let me know you're joining. If you're joining us for the replay, you can always give us that hashtag replay. That lets me come back and respond to you all and have a conversation. So we know that things have changed. We are looking at data that shows a huge increase in applications. Hi, Gary, it's good to see you. There you go. Nice to say hi. So we know that sourcing has changed. We know that there's more applicants per open position than ever before, thanks to these lovely technologies that are helpful to job seekers, but unfortunately aren't necessarily being used in a way that is productive in the job search. I'd love to hear if any of you see job seekers or you're working with job seekers who are using something like Lazy Apply or Loop CV. There's a few new ones that just came out. I saw one recently, I think it was called Easy AI or something like that, that these new technologies that help applicants apply to jobs, which is great. But unfortunately, of course, there's people using it in a untethered way that is sending thousands of applications to open positions. Hi, Scott. It's good to see you today. Thank you for joining us. So we shared in our newsletter a few weeks ago, we shared an article about Workday's new research that shows this increase in applicants per open job. There's also some research from other places that shows similar results. And it's interesting that it's kind of all of a sudden. So these technologies have existed for a while. Loop CV, we got a presentation on, I think in 2020, and it was pretty low use at that point. But then you had Lazy Apply and some of those that came onto the market last year, the year before last. But all of a sudden, for some reason, here in 2024, we have seen a huge increase of candidates using those tools, and recruiters are reporting these large increases in applicants that started probably the end of 2023 and now scooting in here to 2024. So what are they doing in response? And now things are changing. So we're going to be do that. Hopefully, if I keep my camera thing stays good. Let me see here. I'm going to make sure that so a little pro tip, if you have low bandwidth, one of the things you can do is make sure that things aren't syncing on your computer. So I was just turning off my Dropbox sync so that that doesn't mess with me, and maybe I can get some bandwidth back here on my computer. So we're thinking about how are people job searching today? What does that look like? And how can we inform that with something that's going on in the recruiting space? So one of the things we've been talking about for a while, but now it's started to also become more mainstream, is the use of technologies like Findem, Seek Out, these technologies that go and look online for certain keywords and then pull profiles of people who match those keywords. And this past July, we were fortunate enough to have Findem come in and do a presentation for us during our Tech Jam. She did a whole kind of what's about how Findem works, which was amazing. So Annie Rader came in and did that for us. I'm going to show you just a few of her slides so that you can get some ideas about how systems like Findem work. Now, before about a month ago, and people would say, oh, Marie, how many technologies or how many companies are actually using these technologies? And it was a smaller part of the market. Seek Out was kind of a startup. Although I don't know that it was always just big companies using these, they definitely had a smaller market share. But what happened about a month ago, and kudos to Findem for this, is that they created a partnership with Paychex. And so now companies, all of the Paychex companies, anyone who uses that service had access to this technology as part of their deal, right? Part of their deal of using the services. So let's look at what this means for our job seekers. And let me see if I can pull this up here. All right. So these are some slides about how Findem works. And let me grab these for us because they're not where they're supposed to be, but we will find them. Excellent. Okay. So this is one of the screenshots that just goes through how this works and how how Findem works. Maybe we can figure that out. Let's see. Oh, there we go. All right. So a lot of times we think about, okay, how are they finding people? They're finding people by title. And I've heard, people talk about these being, I think Kevin on LinkedIn, he talks about this being the market value title. It is the title that people would be searching for. However, it's not just titles that are on LinkedIn that they're going to be searching for, because these systems have their own intelligence now, right? They've been around for a while. Findem's been around since at least 2019. Now, of course, more AI powered, able to come up with not just the LinkedIn titles, the ones that show up in LinkedIn search when you start to type it in, that show up in the drop downs, but also other common titles that candidates who do the right type of work that I'm hiring for would be using. So I can go out and I can find these titles on the internet anywhere. So this is not LinkedIn specific. In fact, some of LinkedIn's privacy settings might actually hurt some things from showing up in a recruiter search like this. So it's looking at professional websites, Twitter, X, Instagram, anything that is public where you have been talking about your skills, your careers page of your current company, an interview that you did, like anything that you do online can position you to show up in these types of searches. Now, it's not too surprising then. So this is why we have been talking about and helping people create their digital footprints. We've been talking about this for at least 4 years now. It's not just about LinkedIn. It's about all the places where you can show up with the right keywords to be found in these kinds of systems. And I find this really exciting because it gives our clients an opportunity, even if they don't hold the exact right job right now, if they start getting into these conversations, posting about these topics, getting engaged in industry conversations anywhere on the internet that they feel comfortable with, that is public. Unfortunately, that is one of the requirements for these types of systems, is that it has to be a place that's public. So we talk a lot about Facebook groups and those types of things, which we'll talk about more, but those are private. They aren't necessarily going to help you show up in these types of searches. So we've got to find those places our clients can feel comfortable engaging, where they can show up in these types of searches. Now, that's just one option here. So the next thing that we've got is the next slide that I'll share from her is, maybe if I can get there. So that they're looking for skills in addition to titles, they're looking for skills. And of course, this is looking at LinkedIn, but it's looking anywhere else that it can find where you've built a profile and started talking about these skills. And what I thought was fascinating when Annie shared this is that a skill is that it shows up once, but if it shows up more than once, it comes up higher in the search. You'll come up higher in the search, and they call it an attribute, right? Because now it's not just something you've talked about once, but it's up there many times. So it must be something that you're really skilled in. And we can help our job seekers do this, right? Of course, they've got their LinkedIn profile, but then a few months ago in some of our work, we were talking about websites and how many opportunities there are now for them to create their own personal website. Google Sites is free. Canva, if you've got a premium account, you can have a Canva site using a Canva site. So there's so many opportunities beyond the ones that have existed for a long time, like Wix and Squarespace, whatever, where you could build a website. Now there are so many opportunities for candidates to create a profile that isn't just on social media, but would help them show up in these recruiter searches like this. So we're looking at the skills, not just the job titles, but where the two things come together. So recruiters are out there, they're using, more and more of them are using these types of technologies that can go out and find candidates, build a profile for them based on skill words that they're using. And of course, with AI, it's just getting smarter and faster and will be more available to more companies to use that type of technology. So that's the first way. The second way is something we've been talking about a lot, which is communities. So I've heard a lot of recruiters talking about how they're using communities and niche job boards. And they're interesting just to look at some of the research that niche job boards actually rank pretty high in the job search ROI. So if you go out and you find job boards that are specifically related to your industry, those can be a great place to get found. Why are recruiters using more of those? Because they're not going to be scraped by these technologies like Lazy Apply, where they're going to get flooded with applications. So if I go into that more niche job board that's not hooked into these systems, then I can get real applicants who are going to submit applications for my job and be good, viable candidates. So I'm using these niche job boards. I'm going into Facebook and maybe LinkedIn groups, but we're finding places where we can post a job, but also have that pipeline of individuals that's going to contribute to my job, to my job. They're going to refer people to me. I'm going to have that conversation to them. Most popular, most used search technologies. So JobVite, which is one of the bigger technologies, got bought out by Employ, but I still say JobVite. They have the technology that we were just talking about for Findem. They have that built in. There's a technology called Araya that's been around for a while that can be built into an applicant tracking system. And then you have Seekout and Findem. Those are kind of the big four, if you will, that I've heard of. I think Findem just took quite a bit of the market share when they launched that partnership with Paychex, because now you've got more mid-size. I think the number they quoted was 750,000 businesses that were customers of Paychex. So you're seeing a little bit of churn in that market, but those big players seem to have persisted. I've heard less about Seekout recently, but some of the bigger, I don't know if iCIMS, one of the other big applicant tracking systems, was also working on getting these technologies in. I'm not sure if they did, but that's where a lot of these systems are heading, because sourcing is the next challenge. Finding people that actually fit, where we don't get flooded with tons of applicants who don't fit, who aren't qualified, or who aren't sharing that they're qualified. That is the next challenge. How do I get through this process and get the people? I mean, every hiring manager wants the best candidates. They don't want to be screening people out for technicalities or because they didn't list the right skills. And that's what Findem is trying to do, is say, yes, you've got your resume, but then you've got all these other things out online about you. And if we bring those together, then we can make sure we get the best candidate, because we're not just counting on you to make sure you put that in your resume. We can bring in these other qualities that we find online, other skills and attributes, so that we make sure we get the person who has the right qualifications. I'll just say too that although I know these systems have drawbacks, part of the mission of a lot of these technologies is to increase the diversity of the talent pool. So instead of just going to certain universities where I'm going to get the same people all the time, now I can use these technologies and get nationwide search or international search and broaden my pool, and hopefully get more diverse pool of candidates as well. So that's the idea behind these. Now, whether that always works or not, that's to be said. Communities, places where I can go where my candidates are already hanging out. This could be online, could be offline. It's not rocket science. It's just helping our clients find those places where their people are already hanging out. professional associations, of course, but then all of the kind of little spin-offs of that, right? So career thought leaders, we have our formal stuff, but then we have a Facebook group, and I see jobs being had in that Facebook group at least once a week. There's someone posting something where someone else is getting a gig or a job from it, and that's not unique to our group. It's one of those areas that we often, well, I talk about it a lot. So if you've been here before, you probably heard it, but I'm going to keep saying it. So, but there's also lots of that. You've got Slack and GitHub and Discord and all of the places where professional groups are building community. And it's honestly one of the reasons way back in the day, we changed the name of our digital branding class from social branding to digital branding, because it's not just about social media. One, it's about building your brand so that people can find you in the searches we were just looking at for Find Them. But two, it's about all these other opportunities that aren't necessarily social media that give people that chance to join into conversations with their community. So those pieces of it are huge. So those are the ways that we're seeing the talk about sourcing shift and how people are doing that differently. Then, of course, we've got LinkedIn, and LinkedIn is still big. It's obviously it's the top choice of the most recruiters. However, I will share that they asked the question differently in 2023 than they've asked it before. And instead of asking which do you use, which were all really high numbers, they just asked, of these, which is your favorite? LinkedIn was the favorite, but the other ones registered higher than I thought they would. You've got Facebook and Instagram that recruiters are using as well. And so even when you talk about social specifically, where are your audiences hanging out? Where are they having these conversations? And how can you use the other channels to your candidate's benefit? And the number one way is really helping them do that research and understand where their audience really is. And we've been doing some fun work in that space using some of the AI tools. But when it comes right down to it, the foundation of having a candidate really understand who their audience is a game changer. And what I find is that there's all this stuff up here about they want to network, they want to grow their brand, they want to be a thought leader. And that's great. But we always have to start at the beginning of who is your audience? What do they care about? What conversations do you want to have with them? And that is actually where the transformational work happens. All of this up here, kind of tactical how to, that is good, but it doesn't matter if we don't have that foundation. And so I love that people come kind of even into our classes thinking they're going to get the how-tos, where to post, when to post, etc. And what they find out is that foundational conversation of really understanding your audience, that's where the transformation happens. And if people just needed to know how to post online, I mean, there's a million articles, Facebook, it's easy. The challenge is, who do you want to be? What do you want to be known for? Who needs to know you? And where are they? And that's what our coaches have found that they're really helping people uncover, and then overcoming all of the mental hurdles that come with building visibility in whatever space they choose. And that's why we do coaching, right? And not necessarily just advice giving or how-toing, because that piece of it really usually isn't what's keeping people from doing it. So keep doing the great work that you're doing in that space and helping people overcome those challenges, because that, whether it's in person or online, that relationship building and visibility building is what's going to help people get through this very challenging job market right now. That getting to be known, growing their relationships so that they're the first to know if something's available or that they're that candidate that's referred in. That's the whole point of all of this. And the digital branding is a little bit longer term, bigger picture look versus some of the stuff we teach in our social media for jobs. But they're both important for that long-term career health and even for the short term of getting those opportunities that people want. So we've had a lot of fun going through some of these things. We've talked about digital branding for a month or so here, but we are going to start our digital branding class this Thursday. So in just a few weeks here, we'll be starting, or sorry, a few days, just a few days, we'll be starting our digital branding course. It's really all about helping you understand how to increase your digital presence and how to teach others to do the same beyond the how-tos of LinkedIn, because it's really more than that if you want to be a standout digital brand today. And you can see all of the thoughts from our colleagues of why they take the class here on this site. So if you are interested in that, go and check it out and join us. So the other thing that we've got coming up, and I'll put that link here on the bottom, but the other thing that we've got coming up here soon is our career jam. So the trends of what's coming up next and what's going on in the industry. And I'm excited that we have a few of our speakers already selected for that as well. And we'll be shifting gears to talk more about trends for 2025 starting next week. So I'd encourage you to go and look at our Career Jam trends page. And last week we announced the trends for 2025, and share with me what you want to learn more about or some of the trends you're seeing so that we can cover those as well. And we will be right back here next Tuesday talking about the now, the new, and those things that we can see impacting our work in 2025 and beyond. So thank you, everyone. We'll see you next Tuesday. If you're here on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe so that you get notified every Tuesday when we go live. Thank you, everyone.